What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream talking about stocks and other things. Um, my Wi-Fi is a bit spotty today. I don't really know what's going on. Sometimes it gets that way with rain and stuff, but we're nice weather over here. So I'm not too sure what it is. So if it gets a bit choppy, that's why. But I'll try to work through it, and hopefully the recording after the fact comes out okay. So, I'll start off here with a look at that already. DAS is already glitching on me. This might not end up very well, but that's okay. It'll help me review for this evening, anyways. Um, so I will start off with a review from Friday. So I was long SNOA for that liquidity trap. Looking for a retest of these prior highs. We had a gap up day that held pretty well on day two, and then I played that $4 break. So I was long right here through fours, and volume just never came in. It chopped sideways, so I sold for about 20-cent gain there. Ended up tanking shortly after and still going sideways the rest of the day. So not really a good looking opportunity at this point. The move that it should have had didn't come, what I was looking for, so I didn't stick around there. Pony, I did pretty well on Pony. With opportunities like this, looking back at it in hindsight, I always wish I could have done better. I felt pretty prepared for it going into the open. I was fairly sized for this opportunity. And I just, when I'm sized and my conviction is like a 90-95% this is going to work, I always start to second guess myself. Am I too big? Am I too convicted? Am I using the right risk level, etc.? Um, so I was a bit active on this name, a bit more active than I typically like. So if you look back yesterday, we had a nice blowout in after hours. Week opens, but then once 7 a.m. came into the open, we had to squeeze out even higher than the after hours blowout. So I'm viewing this as an exhaustion gap, and I'm just looking for volume to confirm, and that's exactly what we got off those opening. I typically zoom out to like a 15-minute time frame and look for volume exhaustion on exhaustion gaps. And once opening ranges were taken out, that 15-minute trend was fairly clear, and I was interested in leaning pops. I took one loss on it off the open, where we got this immediate flush as soon as market open. So I shorted here through pre-market highs by a couple pennies, and then we got hard cracks. So I'm leaning lower highs here in the 920s with risk on high a day. And I was probably about 3x size on that lower high versus a typical risk, just because this felt like an A+ opportunity. So I'm leaning all through here, and I covered into the 860s off of those 920s. So I was locked in, had a pretty nice padding. And once it tried to reverse and couldn't, I hammered it back through those 860s and rescaled. Once it bought emotional, because I've got bigger size, and now I've locked in, but my risk reward is a bit skewed, playing off a high days. So it was a bit tough, but I was in out a bunch around here. Big picture wise, I was short and basically covering, short and covering with fairly decent size, just scalp. And then it was, right in here, we got this pull and swipe candle. I thought this might have been the lows, so I was basically all covered by here, and it started fading. And if you zoom out to pre-market levels, this 720, 730s right in there. So once it started to come in to these 720, 730s, we got that flush, increased volume, a little low a day crack and reclaim. So I started longing here. I flipped long in the 740s. I didn't lock 760s and ended up selling it for a loss there. And then that was it for the rest of my day. I was hoping for some bounces a bit closer to VWAP and was prepared to swing this over the weekend. But it just didn't come. The best ones never bounce, as Sam and I always say in Investors Underground Turbo. The best ones never bounce, and that's exactly what happened here. But when they never bounce, I'm always questioning: am I too sized? Am I going to get caught in a steady grind back where it just fades, fades, fades? No reason to cover, and then if you don't cover that immediate turn, then everybody's on the wrong side. Um, so it's always tough. Like, do I wish I just kept my 3x size with 50 cents a risk and cover it for 3 points? Yeah, but that's not the reality and how I traded it. So it is what it is. I think this daily's got a bit more meat on the bone. Goal was mid sixes, and we did get that sub seven flush. So most of the trade has come and gone. But for me to play like a backside bounce, I would look for a bigger fade, maybe towards 580s or six. So I'd be looking at all pops tomorrow to lean. I think there's a ton underwater, so I think pops get met with selling pressure, and I'll look for another red day before trying to trade this for a backside bounce on Tuesday or Wednesday. So worth keeping that one on watch. And then, so that one was a great trade, and then CEP was the not so great trade. So I was fairly sized and scaling in and out of Pony, actively trading, and I was doing the same thing on SEP. But I was focused on this one while it wasn't working, trying to force a bias of what I wanted to happen, versus Pony was doing exactly what I wanted to, and my thesis was proven correct. This one, my thesis was not proven correct. Each flush got absorbed and pops weren't staying heavy. Meanwhile, Pony was steady low a days. So I continued to fight SEP and ended up giving back most of that gain on Pony because I gave this one 3 tries, and 3x size, if I'm trading 1x size, given this one 3 chances, then I'm taking a 3R loss on it. So I put a starter on right here into the morning pop. It was, let's see here, where red to green was right around here. So it closed fairly weak in the 25s, and now we're pushing up into these looking left levels, the hard crack lower highs. So I'm using 34s as a guide, so we get this pop, and it stuffs right under 34s. So I shorted some more off of this initial entry, shorted some more with risk on highs, got stopped, and then we get the hard crack lower highs. So I'm shorting some again in here. I scale through these 30s. That was the level I wanted to confirm, but the immediate reclaim and base, I'm stopping back out here, took another loss. And then it starts to grind and consolidate and puts this base here in the 32s, so I short it, and then it continues to grind, so I take it off and take another loss. Ended up going quite a bit higher before ending right back where it came from. It topped out right at prior day's highs, and it's got a nice couple of top wicks up there. A lot stronger typically when they gap into those prior wicks, and you can see the volume associated with these levels. Definitely a lot stronger than I expected, but a loss I deserved when I continue to fight a name that's grinding higher. So I earned this one. I deserved it, but it was a bit frustrating on a day that I think had a major opportunity in Pony, and then to give that money back on something like this that definitely isn't A+ quality. So we're here now, so can just move on. The 4 EMA is sitting right around those mid-20s. We've got a nice couple top wicks here. Hasn't gone red in 3 days. And now that we've exhausted twice up into these levels, could it continue to hold mid-20s? Yes. Prior close is right here in the mid-31s. So I think I can use this 34 level again tomorrow. And as long as this is opening 30, 31, maybe get pops up into those mid to low. Ooh, YouTube crapped out again. Yeah, stupid Wi-Fi. Hunk of garbage. I don't know what's up with my Wi-Fi. I'll try and reset it later. So yeah, I'll be looking for pops back up into these mid to low 30s, and as long as this stays red, I think we could retrace back to those 20s. So I will still keep this one on watch, but I'm going to try my best to stay patient and look for those red moves. Try not to revenge trade from the loss on Friday and just take it as a new opportunity. Omex, nice gapper idea through that 80 cents. And we got the week opens in pre-market towards that 90 cent to $1 level. Right here, prior resistance became support all of pre. A nice blowout into market open and hard crack lower highs. I was involved in this one. Once we got this blowout, I was leaning here through all these 50s. I ended up covering it fairly flat. It just wasn't as volatile as I would have liked. I believe they have some sort of dilution or some sort of news came out here in after hours, hence the gap down. So prior close is in the 150. This is gapping into the 120s. It won't be a trade for me. If it's gapping up anywhere near those 150s, I'll use those 160s as a guide for a cautious lean. I would just like this daily to go higher, even if it wants to pull back and just put in like a red day or two, maybe play a reversal and then look for a big picture breakout down the road. But nice volume trading on this, and the big daily base over 80 cents. This has got a lot of range to chop around in before picking its next direction. So I like how this one's setting up, whether it's a trade for Monday or later in the week, but this one is trading pretty well. WW, I think this is Weight Watchers. They just changed their name, but I think it's the same ticker. Has gone on multi-day runs in the past and has some pretty good fades on the backside. So just noting it because it went from about 10 cents to 40 cents. So if this can get running back up to like 80 to a buck, I'd like a mean reversion trade, but higher the better. What else do we got? Eric continues to chop around. Not going to lose it off radar just because it's still sideways. See if it can set a higher low to 90 cents. Maybe reclaim these 130, 140 levels and maybe a breakout down the road. HTZ, good little flat cut on those 860s, 870s breakdown because it continued lower. Did break that big picture 820 support. So not super clean. Zooming out to like something like this, it's still holding up like over under this 8 level. But not the cleanest trend. I would have expected it to actually speed up and break out once it was consolidating up there. But no real immediate plan there. MSGM, no volume. NKTX, no volume. SEP, we went over. SNOA, no volume. SMMT, this one tanked on a news pending headline. Let me see what it said last week. It's right around 11:30. Interim overall survival analysis requested from Chinese health authorities shows a clinical meaningful positive trend favoring some long name. Study conducted by AICSO in China. So sounds like Chinese health authorities were requesting information, and then they put out a news at 2:50. So it halted for a long time. Jeez. And then they say interim analysis of Harmony 2 shows an overall survival hazard ratio, blah, blah, blah. So I imagine it probably got hammered on someone who knew that the news was going to be coming out, but news came out down when it halted like for a couple hours. That's crazy. But it was that extended daily. I had tried it the day before and it continued higher and broke out. So I guess that trapped enough longs to panic them. And straight down move. Too bad that didn't happen the day before when I was involved. Pony, we went over that one. Possible fade for a second red day, and then look for a trade on Tuesday or Wednesday for a bounce. OMEX, same kind of idea. If we get pops close enough, I'll look to fade that trend versus the 50s, 60s. Otherwise, if it's gapping down too much, I will let it do its thing and then keep it on watch for the rest of the week. Weight Watchers, higher the better. What's been working on these daily charts, if you look at, if you look at something like OMEX, for example, it trades its volume here a couple times, fades off, and then once it breaks out, you get those explosive moves. AREC even did it, where it had a push, it had this here, fails, little breakout, fails, and then once it breaks and firms up, you get that explosive move. And there's a few names hitting my scan here that are setting up fairly similar, where you get this volume back here, fizzles out, you get this move, fizzles out, and now volume and trend is starting to build. So that 50-cent breakout there interests me over here into this. The volume there is in like the 44, 45 cent range. So ideally it pushes up into that, maybe rejects, consolidates near its highs, and then re-breaks out. But this is the similar daily chart that's been working on these small caps. Same kind of thing with SXTC. Had this big gap day and then fizzled out, volume starts to come in, and then it just needs to build over this 320s looking left level, which is a fairly clean top, so I will keep that one on watch for a breakout. And then a few names that I figured a few people might have on watch or might have questions about, because just at like a quick glance of a daily chart perspective, they're looking good. But if you zoom into how they trade or where the volume is traded at, just give it a minute. This freaking internet is brutal. Definitely have to get this fixed for tomorrow. But yeah, if you look at where the volume is traded, it was just here on like one day, and then OLB right into close, and then just sideways the rest of the day, and JAGX one day while it was grinding. So you got these daily charts that look decent, but the way in which they're trading intraday just isn't that great. So I'll keep them on watch if they can run and go straight up. But other than that, not a main watch. So most of it is names that were big percent gainers and nice multi-day runners last week is what most of my watches are. Not a ton of new stuff from my weekend scan, but we will see where we're at tomorrow. Hopefully enough of this didn't chop through that the recording you could kind of get bits and pieces from. But it is what it is. I'll try and get it fixed for tomorrow. And other than that, I will catch you guys in the room. Peace.